From the moment I logged into CZN, I was immediately immersed in the whole experience, being a sci-fi fan, and just being able to explore the story even deeper. The gameplay definitely grabbed my attention the most, and so in this video, I'm going to be discussing my impressions so far after about 20-30 hours, and I'll just provide you with my thoughts and what I would like to expect moving forward for the game. So let's get started. CZN is truly, at its core, a fantastic deck building roguelike experience, and for those who have come from games like Slay the Spire, or you've played other TCG games like Pokemon TCG or Magic the Gathering, or even the likes of Hearthstone like myself, the game offers something that is very special in that the story is very captivating, at least for me. Being a sci-fi fan, I love the more darker side of the sci-fi universe, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the story evolves in CZN. But of course, gameplay at its core is really where the game shines, most notably in the chaos system, and that's really where the meat and bones of the roguelike system come into play. And so for me, diving into this for the first time, I was immediately hooked. Not just by the wide variety of different characters, some of whom are quite questionable in terms of their appearance, but I would say for the most part, the gameplay, despite the overall appearance of some characters in the game, is very satisfying, and the gameplay loop keeps you coming back for more because of the fact that every time you log into the chaos system, you're constantly being welcomed by new cards that give you new abilities, epiphanies, and these different buffs that can really transform your build and turn it into something really good, or in some rare cases it can brick your build. But that's the fun part. The fun part is the experimentation. The fun part is the transformation that you see over the course of you playing the game with your favorite characters. And also, I love the fact that this game doesn't really, at least for me, it doesn't really need a tier system or a tier list, because any character to me is viable in this game. Especially coming from the likes of Slay the Spire, I feel like there's so much you can do in this game with multiple characters, and all it really takes is the right person to pilot the right character to make that character work. And so one thing that I will say over time is, in order for Smilegate to ensure that we don't run into some significant or severe power creep in the future, is just to make sure that their 4 stars are strong, because in this game currently the 4-star units are very good, which is very surprising but also a positive, and the 5 stars are sufficient enough to where they can get the job done, but you don't have to heavily invest in pulling for every single 5-star. It's a game where gacha is implemented, but it isn't to the extent where you as the player feel like you're forced to roll, if that makes any sense. And that's because the 4 stars themselves are actually pretty good. Mika, for example, is like an incredibly strong unit. She's very versatile. Tressa, for example, very, very strong unit. And you have an assortment of other characters that really help to facilitate and bring teams together, which is really nice. So regarding the array of characters to choose from, I think anybody coming into the game is going to have a wonderful time, because you're not forced to pick up a tier list or anything of that sort. You can really jump into the game, try out different characters, pull for the ones you like, and just see how it goes from there. Of course, there are going to be some negatives about the game, which I'll get into. But before that, I just want to say I really do hope that Smilegate continues to pursue the path that they're currently on, because what they're doing is truly something special. And I know that they mentioned doing a live stream for the community, which I do hope goes well for them, just because live streams, or at least connecting with your fans in a transparent way, can really be positive. We've seen that with the likes of Warframe and that community. It's good that if they take initiative to ensure that they moderate things and keep things, wholesome, and, really try to focus on the more constructive and honest feedback, as opposed to all the, random hate and vitriol that comes with it. I think the team can really do a spectacular job to ensure that not only will the game feel good, but the story just brings everything together. So all that being said, let's move into the things I think they have to work on, and then we'll close out with my final thoughts. So for me overall, I don't have as many qualms as perhaps other players in the game. I personally do like the experience that CZN offers at the moment, and nothing really serious stands out to me. However, when it comes to deck building or just cards in general, the way in which you use these cards needs to be explained thoroughly with a lot more clarity. And the one thing I've run into thus far is the lack of clarity with some cards and how they synergize with each other. And that could be due to the translation of certain cards and maybe some typos here and there. Also things like your partners and how they work with you, or even things like your potential. Things like these can be a lot better explained. That in itself, I think, can be improved upon over time. But I do think it's important to note, because your cards mean everything, and if your cards don't really have that synergy you're looking for due to the lack of explanation or how they actually operate, can be a bit jarring for some people. Next, for me, another point of contention is when you go to Arc City, when you're trying to do the Epi 1 Center and you have a character who is under a lot of stress, the counseling currency shares the same currency as the one that you use for your excursions. That is, when you're going to meet up with your favorite characters, you're going to be spending a lot of time with these characters. Why? Because you want to build their affinity, and their affinity is what gives you free roll currency. And also it just gives you plus attack, plus defense, so it buffs your character in that regard as well. But the fact that they're using the same currency to spend time together and also focus on healing your character is a bit of a problem for me, because your psychotherapy is very imperative to the gameplay as a whole. The moment that your character goes into a trauma state, it is not easy to win the game, because the moment you hit trauma state, you're locked into this mode where you kind of have to force yourself to pick cards that have a lot of value to them. That is, each card or each trauma card, they have a cost, and you have to pay for every card every single turn. But what that can do is, because you're getting those cards in your hand, that can also cause problems for you, because now you're having to play these cards. At the same time, you're trying to draw more cards, so that really causes some conflict when it comes to your drawing in terms of your cards. I hope that they can minimize the degree of cards that you get via your trauma, or they could maybe just, lessen the degree of the trauma in some way and make it so that players don't have to always receive such a high influx of cards and overwhelm them. That can be fixed as well. Those to me are like the big two standouts, is just fixing the currency to ensure that players are not running into the same currency twice. But it's really important that counseling is done, because nobody wants their character to be in trauma state. It can be really, really difficult to sometimes navigate the game when you have a character who is suffering. And because you're sharing this currency, it definitely adds another element of unnecessary, I don't want to say stress, but it just adds another element of unnecessary thinking. So that can be something for them to work on moving forward. Pertaining to the overall chaos, I know that there are some out there who say the game feels a lot like Honkai Star Rail, which I do agree. So this really isn't a con for me. It's more of, if they really want this game to stand out, I hope that they take initiative to make the game feel like their own. And it's great to take inspiration from games that are obviously successful, but it would be really nice if they could somehow create their own unique way of leveling up and pursuing the chaos and zero as much as possible, to therefore give players a greater degree of freedom and creativity. So that to me is really all I got to say with regards to my impressions so far. Again, it's pretty early, and there's a lot in this game that is yet to come out. We're still in season 1 of the game. So look forward to more content for CZN from me. There's going to be a lot more in store in terms of build guides and character guides and all that good stuff. So if you want to see more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, New Warriors, stay strong, keep fighting, and may the force be with you all always. Let me know what you folks think of the game as well down below, and leave your comments as to what you think is necessary for the game to change. And I'll see you folks on the next video. All right, take care.